In the past 6 years, Metallica have gone from cult status to become one of the most prominent heavy metal bands in the world. Earlier this year, they were selected to represent the metal category at the Grammy Awards presentation, and their song One made a very strong showing on the Billboard singles charts in America. Also, they made a promotional video for One, ending their stance against doing that. Recently, we had a chance to go to Hamilton. We went to Copps Coliseum and spoke to band members Lars Ulrich and Kirk Hammett. We also talked to the crew that make the Metallica show what it is, the sound, lights, staging, and special effects guys. And most importantly, the fans who have supported Metallica since the outset. As part of our special, we'll have some bits from the Metallica home video, Cliff 'Em All. And at the end, great giveaways, so stay tuned. Metallica, Justice on Wheels, a comprehensive look at probably the most influential band in metal today.
Metallica are a thing unto themselves, to be honest with you.
To imitate is to create. You have to start somewhere.
It all comes from the music. You have to know the music inside out.
I think we're very, very honest about our natural sort of growth and development.
Metallica will just hit home and hit it hard. You know, they get to the point.
I was talking to some of the crew before the show while they were setting up, and there's an amazing affection and respect for the band. Is it a family situation out there?
We hang out together. I mean, we're all buddies. I mean, it's like, you know, if you travel around with all these people for a year and a half, I mean, it's hard not to become friends. We're pretty easy to get along with everyone in the band, and it's just, we all hang out together as much as we can.
I saw an amazing respect, too. I mean, these guys come from all different backgrounds, different ages, different, interests, but they respect this band and what this group has got to say. It was very impressive.
Well, like I said, it's all a mutual sort of thing. We respect them because these guys are the best in what they do.
Musically, this is a bit of a different sort of thing for you, right?
Yeah, I enjoy it though. I like Metallica, a lot of energy and that. They're pretty nice guys and, no complaints at all.
What's like the hairiest situation you could run into during a show?
With who? With Metallica?
Yeah.
I once had my arm pulled out of a socket at a show in Houston a few years ago, yeah. James used to jump into the crowd and I used to jump in and get him out, and I got my arm pulled out of its socket one night, so that was pretty hairy, I guess, not too pleasant, but, that's pretty bad. I mean, there could be worse things than that. But,
that's pretty bad. How many instruments are you working with at any given time?
What, guitars?
Yeah.
He only takes 3 on the road. Like some guitarists will take like a dozen, maybe. Like Kirk uses a few more, but I only have to look after 3, so it could be worse.
I would think with the speed approach to playing that he'd be breaking strings light. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, some nights he breaks. I think the record so far is 5 in a night. He wants to put 5, but I mean, last few nights has been pretty good. We've had a good run, so let's touch wood and hope it keeps up.
What's special about doing sound for a Metallica show?
I think Metallica as a band are more of a concept sound as opposed to a sort of a general rock and roll sound. It's like, okay, you can do an overall sound, but it doesn't suit Metallica. It sounds real sort of flat and not very powerful unless you get some sort of bottom end and some power behind it. You have to create the power.
How's it different from any other rock and roll gig that you might do?
I think everything else is much easier, actually. Metallica are a thing unto themselves, to be honest with you.
Now, when one thinks of an arena show, you think about everything like being completely worked out, cue to cue, everything just being as tight as possible. Is there any room for improvisation and changing the show? Really?
All the time. Metallica are full of that. I mean, if they played the set twice in a row, it would be amazing. Every night's a different thing, literally.
Really?
To the way they play, to the way everybody feels, the way it's going to go over.
You ever get caught by surprise?
All the time.
Give me an example. What happens?
It's endless. I mean, when they change songs, I'll drop a song, or sometimes they might suddenly throw a song in that they haven't even told me about. It's like, oh, let's do Four Horsemen or Leper Messiah or something. It's like, just go for it. It's like, what can I do? I've just got to make it louder. End of story, It's interesting though. It's interesting. It's, as I said, it's a different concept to any other band because they are like, they play all the time, you know, it's like a wall of sound. So you have to create this wall of sound and try to make it listenable, you know, to make it sort of come over as one thing. I mean, nobody ever sort of shuts up to let somebody do a solo or anything. It's always like, that's it, we're playing. I'll sort it out as it goes along.
How much are the fans a part of the show for you?
Oh, 100%. They have to be. I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's like other people may come and see Metallica and think, what's that? You know, but the fans who are into Metallica, they understand what's trying to be captured with the energy involved. The band just ooze energy. It's like, and all I've got to do is try and capture that energy and put it over to the masses, you know.
Now the lighting setup is kind of unique here because towards the end of the show it starts to break down and stuff. What's that mean? Is that something special for you as a setup?
As it breaks down, there's like 4 of us on the lighting crew. We each have our certain gigs that we do. When the trusses come in, I have a certain amount of stagehands that I work with, and I just tell them what to do from each time.
Is there any extra sort of safety things you got to deal with?
There's a lot of safety matters. With each individual light that's hung up there, we have a safety cable around it just in case. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Everything gets a safety cable around the main truss.
You ever sort of crossed into the danger zone there where you thought, oh my God, what's going to happen next?
Fortunately, haven't had any problems like that. Yeah, so it's been a pretty safe tour so far.
Do you get together with the band before they start a tour and they say, look, here are the ideas that we want you to represent visually, and then you work it out with them?
No, generally what happens is they call me, I go and get the music, I listen to the music over and over and over till it's in my subconscious, and then something comes out like this looks here.
We were very lucky in that we found a guy named John Broderick who has been, is a veteran or has been around for quite some time, done Aerosmith, Deep Purple, Rainbow, Scorpions and so forth, but hasn't actually done any hard rock metal stuff for about the last 6 years because he was getting very fed up with the sort of way it was all just ending up being cliches and so forth. And he, we sat down and told him that this was our first time out in the arenas. We really wanted to put a visual together that was an interesting visual, that was a different visual, that was something that no bands had done before, but also was a visual that was subtle enough that it was not the selling point. You know what I mean? That it didn't come across like we were just trying to sell a stage show instead of just Metallica out there playing music.
They wanted something different. They didn't want the Iron Maiden look, the heavy metal look. They didn't want the Judas Priest look at all. They wanted it to be different. They didn't want lots of beams. They wanted it to come from the meaning of the album, because if you read the lyrics, as any fan has, who has memorized the lyrics, you know what this band is about, is that they're about anti-war and anti-injustice and things like that.
Do you ever get partway through a tour, look at the setup and go, my God, this is all wrong?
Sure.
And then what?
You change it.
Yeah?
You
What's it
go-
like? How do you do that?
You go into a full panic and you stay up for several days and you just change it around till it works. Sometimes I go out and I'll take a tour over from someone else. They might have to leave and go do another tour, or the band wasn't happy with them, and then you do the same thing. You change it around to make it what you need, but it all comes from the music. You have to know the music inside out, better than the band knows their own music. I can tell the band at any point in any song what any band member is playing. They can't do that with each other.
I understand that something special with the statue where it is built up over the night and then crumbles at the end. How hard is that to pull off?
It's very easy now because we've done so many shows. It's just like going to bed. It's so easy, you know what I mean? We've done so many shows. I'm pretty good at it now.
What's the material made out of, and how easy is it to move around?
Okay, it's made of fiberglass. It's got a fiberglass skin. It's a polystyrene inner. So it's really we have transported inside of 2 set carts, which is just a statue. The rest of it's transported in another 6 set carts. We've got 1 semi for the set. It's
very light. It's on the light system. It's really like to move around. It's like about 4 or 5 guys can move it easy.
I understand that when the lady came down last night, she just about dropped her head on Lars. Is that true?
Yeah, we actually hit the set last night, which was a little bit of an accident because we don't like hurting the guys, but obviously if it happens, the guys are all right. They enjoy it. You know what I mean? It's a good laugh.
They enjoy having pieces of the set fall on them?
Well, it didn't actually hit them. Let's put it that way. It was close. It knocked these 2 cymbals over here, and it landed on Lars. He just looked over and smiled. It was all right with me.
Create this stuff for them, or do they come to you and say, look, this is what we want to do, can you make it?
These guys had a design of what they wanted, and so the lighting designer came to me and said, all right, this is what we want, and then I worked with him to make like his, what he envisioned, made it happen, and then I added a few of my own things. So this was like a collaboration, of what they wanted and what I could spice it up with and everything. So,
what's the toughest part of your gig?
Getting up in the morning. After that, it's pretty much smooth sailing. I guess the stuff up in the lighting truss, because I got to go up in the lighting truss and climb around up there, which isn't really that bad. It's just some days just climbing up the lighting truss is just like a royal pain. But I mean, it's not really the hardest job. So kids out there, this is like really pretty an easy job, There's a lot of paperwork involved, you got to get clearances from the fire department and everything, and sometimes you have to do demonstrations. They want to come down and see what you're going to do during the day, so they'll say, like, what's the biggest thing that you have, and you got to set off, like, your biggest device and stuff. I would say there's probably about 60 or 70 individual little things.
Do you handpick a lot of the guys that work on this tour?
A lot of them I try to keep with me, like truck drivers. All the truck drivers out with me all come from AC/DC straight to here. And like Pyro came from AC/DC with me, and Dougie, one of the carpenters, came with me. The rest of the guys were in Europe with Metallica touring, so they came with them because I didn't do the European portion of the Metallica tour. So they were already there. But when I can get some of the guys I like in, I do, because especially with the truck drivers and people like that, because you need people to get from the last gig to the next gig. Because although our day starts at 9 in the morning, if they don't get there, we don't start. So the gig really starts when you load out of the last gig. And without them, you can't do nothing. So I like to get the ones I know would go the extra yard for you.
Jake, what's the area of the whole tour setup that could potentially have the worst snags for you?
In which snags do you mean? Like
technically?
Well, part of my job is to advance the shows well in advance with the local promoters, in this case, Canada CPI, and with their rep, and to make sure that they have enough power in the building, whether we can hang the full system in the roof, and the stage size is big enough, and of course the labor force and the food. If you advance that properly, then you really shouldn't have any snags. Of course there always are. If it was all smooth, they wouldn't need me, would they? The biggest problem we have with security is the advance press before we come into town. I think some of the people think that because a car gets stolen or a woman gets assaulted or something like that, when Metallica is in town, that it doesn't happen the rest of the year. It happens the year round. And I think they think that we bring these people in especially for it, And I guess that's a little annoying. And then buildings and press call other towns. And so when you get into a city, you have a bad rap before you've even got a chance to prove yourself. That's the biggest headache. And they make you, after listening to second-hand information, everything gets blown out of proportion. So when you're coming to do security, they want to put more guys than really necessary, which then costs more for the band and things like that, because on bad reports. So the news would be the worst aspect of security.
I don't do everything all the time, but it's just kind of keeping an eye on everything. And it's mostly band related. I mean, Jake deals with most of the production stuff in the show, but it's mostly making sure the band's happy, making sure the band get up on time, get to places on time, do interviews like this and other ones, phoners, various things. Just, it's all band related with me and overall. the other thing that I generally deal with is the security. I'll come in each day and deal with the local security, have security meeting with them, make sure that they know that the guys that are in the barricade between the band and the audience know how to deal with the kids that sometimes come over the barricade, because sometimes, unlike this show, we'll do a general admission show where it's just open seating on the floor, more like open standing. And the kids will just shove up against the barricade and sometimes try to get onto the stage, and sometimes, you know, sort of a rowdy crowd, you might say, you know.
What do you do when they get all pressed in so tight there that obviously people in the right up front are going to have trouble breathing?
Well, we have a special addition to our barricade, which is starting to be done on most of them now, which is a step up. So it allows the security guards to stand on a platform that's inside the barricade and pull the kids out. So, you know, most of them like it. I mean, you know, we'll always go back and forth across the barricade and see if any of the kids want to get out. But Metallica fans are pretty diehard, and most of them will just choose to stay there. I mean, unless, you know, sometimes people pass out and they get crushed and they get hurt, but we've never, ever had any serious injuries occur during our tour. Excuse me, let's see who's calling, shall we? Production, 2 names for the guest list. This is another part of my job, is the guest list. Or we call it the pest list. Okay, go ahead. Martin Moxey, M-O-X-Y, M-O-X-E-Y. Who's guest? Okay.
What do you do when this one's over? What do you do when you get home?
What do I do when I get home? I don't get off my couch.
The rowdiest crowd so far, I'll tell you. We love it!
All right, what is it about Metallica makes them special?
They're great, man.
They're great.
What is it? They don't give a damn about anything. They're true to themselves. They're true. They don't care. They write what they want to say, and it's right against everything else.
They created the wave that everyone else is riding.
Yeah, you think so? How come?
Because they were the first.
They were original, man.
Metallica are talking about madness and war and stuff like that. Does that have a special meaning for you?
Nah, they talk about everything that's going on today, man. They try and make sense. They're trying to talk to the people at the heads of society, trying to tell them what's going on. You know, because like everybody nowadays are getting all of this glam crap and everything else. Metallica will just hit home and hit it hard.
So if they're talking about real serious issues, how are they going to reach the people who don't know what's happening?
They already have.
You gotta listen
They can't reach the people that aren't listening. The only people that are going to listen to Metallica are the people that are like rockers, true fans, and everything else, right? And it means a lot to us, you know, anybody who cares. But for anybody outside this circle, forget about it. They'll think, oh, metal, and they get into the typical stereotypes, and they'll just throw it away. They'll call it garbage. They're posers.
The Metallica fans seem incredibly dedicated and at times very serious. They don't seem to bring a party attitude to the show.
Well, I think that's too easy to just limit it to once, you know, and say this is how Metallica fans are, because I think what's quite interesting about our situation at the moment, excuse me, is that we seem to be appealing to a lot of different groups, which is a lot of different groups of people, where it's too easy just to say, you know, white male 12 to 17. You know, You know, because you get the party people, you get the people that are very into the lyrics, which are probably some of the more serious people. You get the people that are very into just the energies that are being created. You get some of the people that are into some of the musicianship and some of the maybe more musical, intricate things that we do. You get some punks, you get some of the more sort of yuppie kind of Village Voice, Rolling Stone kind of people, you know, who don't really generally like metal, but really like Metallica because they feel that Metallica has something slightly different to offer than one of the other metal bands. So, you know, it's just so many different kinds of people that just to sort of limit it and say, your fans seem very serious, I think there's a little more to it than that.
Metallica are known for keeping in touch with their fans. You actually go out and meet and greet them. What do you learn in those situations?
I could go out there at any given night, you know, and start talking to the fans, and one of them will say a comment that's just like, what? What did you say? And it's like, it'll make me think, you know? And I like that. I like, you know, it's just an objective viewpoint to what we're doing. And a lot of the times, on this side of the stage, you won't get it like backstage, you know. But a lot of the times, it takes something like a fan to notice something that no one else would notice in the, you know, in the entire entourage, and I find that really surprising. But I mean, and when it comes to like, you know, talking with the fans and stuff, I was once a fan, and when I was going to concerts and such, I would go to every single gig hoping that I'd meet, you know, my idol, you know, guy, you know, that impressed me the most. And it never happened, but, you know, it didn't matter because I really enjoyed the band. And, you know, now that I'm in that position, I feel that, you know, well, these kids, you know, they've come to see the band. It'd probably make their day extra special if you go up to them and, you know, sign an autograph and talk to them. I'm not gonna ever space myself from being public. I mean, I'm not gonna become a hermit because of the popularity of the band. I think that can lead to some serious psychological problems.
Another question, you got the album Kill 'Em All? Yeah? Can I borrow it? Awesome. All right, well, if you know the song, sing along with us. This is titled Seek and the Distillery.
I think we're very, very honest about our natural sort of growth and development and so forth, and I don't think we try and sort of hide it, you know what I mean? I think some people, you know, if they hit upon a formula that's quite successful, you know, oh, well, we sold 1 million records this way, let's just keep doing it this way, even though their spirits or something might be taking them elsewhere, or their thoughts or whatever. So we just always, you know, we do a record every 2 years. We always make sure that what comes out and what is written and what's put together is always what feels completely right and natural for us at that time. So we don't really suppress any of the sort of growth or the maturing or anything that's been in the last couple of years. And I think that the kids who've been following us respect and know that, you know, whether they necessarily maybe agree with the growth of the maturing, that they know that it's honest, and that's something that they can really rely on, that, you know, what you see with Metallica is always very honest. It's not, they're not ulterior motives or secret formulas designed to, you know, attract more people or do things, you know, for business or for money or anything like that. That it's always very honest and straightforward. And I think a lot of people can really, you know, associate with that.
What makes them different from, say, you know, Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or Bon Jovi? What makes them different?
Yeah, they're better.
They're better?
Yeah.
Why? Better what? Musicians?
Better looking.
All right, thank you.
My name is Donna Davis, and I'm here with Metallica, the hot new heavy metal band from LA. And let's have them start with their name and what they do in the band. And let's start with you.
James Hetfield, rhythm guitar and vocals.
Lars Ulrich, drums and bongs.
Dave Mustaine, lead guitar. Cliff Burton, bass guitar.
Okay, how long has the band been together as Metallica?
Well, since we started,
Which was what? October 81?
yeah.
The first Metallica. The first Metallica.
Okay. Who are your favorite artists or your main influences? Let's start with you.
Oh, I don't know. There's all kinds of shit. I can't even start to think about it.
Angel Witch. Angel Witch. Faith. Venom.
Motorhead.
Rush.
Venom.
Diamond Head. Black Sabbath. Diamond Head. ZZ Top.
Now, your style as a player, obviously you're known for the speed with which you play. What are the other hallmarks of your guitar style?
Well, just a generally, I mean, overall, there's just a general aggression to the music and the way we approach, you know, the instruments. We play with a lot of distortion, a lot of low end, and just a certain feel, an aggressive feel that finds itself throughout all the music. I mean, there won't be any one particular song that we have that's like pretty all the way through. I mean, there's some, like, you know, nice little passages, nice acoustic passages, but sooner or later it gets real heavy and ugly.
Are you influenced by blues players?
Well, me myself, I've listened to quite a few blues guitar players in that, you know, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, the electric blues players of the late 60s and 70s. I mean, that's my connection with the blues. I never got that deep into it, like, you know, Robert Johnson or Willie Dixon or anything like that, only because when I first started playing guitar, it was easier for me to listen to the electric blues players, and I haven't taken the time out nowadays to listen to that sort of thing. But I'm familiar with, you know, blues licks and blues phrasing, and I play slide guitar. I'm working on slide guitar. Wait, I can't really play slide guitar, but I really try.
On a future record, maybe?
You know, I was toying around with the idea of playing some slide guitar tonight in a certain song, but depends on how much guts I have to do it.
You mentioned, just as we were starting, that you're a major Zeppelin fan. I'm curious to know, when you look back at the guys who are kind of the fathers of metal music, what do you think about what they're doing today? Like, do you listen to Robert Plant's music and Jimmy Page's stuff today?
Not too much. No, it's the style is a bit far removed from what they were doing together. I think together they're something really special. But nowadays, it's too, like I said, it's too far removed. So I really don't listen to it intensively. I mean, I have Outrider and I have Now and Zen. I listen to it, but it doesn't, you know, strike me as being super special.
Yeah.
Zeppelin were one of a kind.
Could you imagine yourself experimenting with keyboards in the band and that kind of thing, like really altering the Metallica sound at any point?
I don't think, I mean, if we ever decide to do something like that, I don't think we'd alter it too much. It would be just very slight. I can't see us, like, you know, overnight using you know, emulators and synthesizers and triggering and sampled sounds throughout our entire, you know, album. That'd be too much of a step to the left. But I would like to see some sort of musical growth like that. I listened to a band called The Ministry. This is like a industrial band, really angry sounding. Everyone I know doesn't like it except me. I listen to a lot of classical music. I'm trying to learn how to play classical guitar, but it's really difficult. It's taking me a long time, but I'm sticking to it. I listen to a lot of the stuff that I used to listen to when I was younger. I still listen to it, like UFO, Jimi Hendrix, Zeppelin. And then I listen to a lot of dark music, like horror movie soundtracks I love. And I like bands like The Misfits, Sam Hain, stuff like that, Danzig.
Ever since I was, about 9 or 10 years old in Denmark and first started becoming very interested in music and so forth, for some reason drums, I used to start out with these cardboard boxes and these things that you would mix paint with, and just sit and play on these things and never try to play anything specifically structured or anything, but I always used to sit and pretend that I was Ian Pace from Deep Purple, and I always got a big kick out of that. And I think up through the rest of the 70s, every time that most people would stand in front of the mirror and play air guitar, I always found myself, swinging wildly in the air, playing or pretending I was some sort of drummer. So when finally I started getting around to really becoming so interested in it that it was time to do something, I just, went the drum way and, just became very quickly interested in sort of, I didn't want to sit for 5 years and get lessons and learn all the, I was so interested in just playing songs and playing with guitar players and so forth, that as soon as I could count to 4, I started looking for other people to get a band together with. And I don't necessarily recommend that to other people, but it was, I was just so interested in playing in a band that I just sort of jumped over all the sort of beginning learning things and just went straight into playing with other people.
Sometimes it seems there's like 4 guys all soloing at once. How do you keep on top of what the other players are doing while you're on stage?
I would say that I probably slightly have to disagree with what you started out by saying, but because I think that, especially on the last couple albums, we've tried to, the general way of thinking is that we try to do what's best for the overall unit as a whole. And I think a few years ago, a few of us were quite concerned with trying to steal the solo spot, maybe is what you're referring to. And I think that has something to do with not being too confident in your own musicianship and your own musical abilities. And I think that what we've done in the last couple of years is sort of pulled back and realized to start trying to do what's best for the unit as a whole. And I think that now we overplay when we have to and we sort of underplay when we have to. And, I think it's just better to do what's best for the song as a whole.
Can you tell me how you developed the themes for the new Metallica album?
Most of those just come from hanging out and just, dealing with what's around you and so forth. Obviously, we hang out a lot together, so a lot of those themes just come from, what we talk about when we're together and some of the things that we see around us in, the media and so forth. And if you notice, obviously a lot of the stuff on our last few albums deals with a lot of the things in the present. We don't write about, 16th century dragons or anything like that. Or, we just write about some more realistic things to us and some things that we find interesting about some of the things that go on around us, with just society in general and so forth. And so I think the general topics just come upon when someone stumbles over something that seems to be strong enough to substantiate doing like a full song around it or something.
A lot of your music could be open to serious misinterpretation. Is there a way to set up a counteroffensive to that?
Well, I think the best way of doing that is really not thinking about it. I think that once you start thinking about what the outcome is of what you're creating, then I think you're in trouble, or at least I think we're in trouble if obviously if that's how other bands want to do it. I'm not going to say anything about it, but we feel that generally when we create, we sort of have to sort of shut out, you know, everything that goes on around us and really not worry about the consequences or anything like that. Because if you sit down and start thinking, well, this parents group is going to say this, or, you know, these people are going to say this, or maybe this song is only going to appeal to this group of people, or maybe these people over here will be offended, then it's like you're just sort of running around in circles, do you know what I mean? So the best thing for us to do is just when we create to shut out basically everything around us and stop thinking about the consequences and just do what comes out naturally.
It seems to me, Lars, that rap and metal share that problem of being very popular and yet not getting any radio exposure. Is this the true alternative music of today?
I mean, this stuff with, you know, alternative music and all these categories, I think that the problem I have with most of that stuff is that I don't know actually what it all means, and I'm not sure that anyone else actually does, because I think at the end of the day, everyone has different definitions of you know, what really is, you know, metal, underground metal, hard rock, pop metal, alternative music, you know, the new wavy stuff. And I mean, at the end of the day, does anyone actually really, you know, who sets these barriers? Speaking about what you're saying about, you know, the radio airplay and so forth, I mean, we've just proven that you know, we can sell 2 million records without the aid or depending on video and radio, and does that make us an alternative band like, say, REM or something like that? Who knows? And to be totally honest with you, who cares?
Let's hear it for thrash metal.
Terry Mulligan, Muchmusic Canada.
Right on.
Canadian video channel. Are you bummed?
Hey, we got to play. That's a great thing for us.
One step forward, three back.
All forward.
All right. And from here on in, I suppose that it's the same way. I was talking to Kumodi about the rap selections. There's another 5 to 10 bands that you got to nominate on the master list. There's a lot of music being made out there.
It was kind of a weird list of metal contendants. It's really strange.
But what do you figure is the criteria? If you're going to, you know, get it down to what is the criteria for the selection?
What you mean in the heavy metal category? Yeah. I don't know if Jethro Tull belonged in there.
They don't belong there. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe 10 years ago or something. I thought AC/DC was going to win personally.
I was so surprised to see Metallica on the Grammys. Was that a victory just being there?
It was good in that this was the first time that this category was added to the Academy, and it was, you know, it was good for us to play. That was the most important thing. It was actually playing. It wasn't as much winning as it was actually playing and establishing ourselves as a genre that, you know, that is a major force, you know, that has something to say, and I mean, it felt really good, and I felt really honored to be in the band that was picked, you know, to represent this genre.
It seems to me that Metallica is being listed as a major influence on so many other bands today. Do you hear that influence out there?
I hear a lot of things that are reminiscent of the things we've done in the past. It's like this: when I was young and influential, I mean, well, I'm not that old, but you know, when I first started out, I was influenced pretty easy. When I first heard Black Sabbath, I thought, wow, you know, this is really cool. And, you know, for the next 6 months, everything I wrote sounded like Black Sabbath. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, to imitate is to create. You have to start somewhere. I'm just hoping that through all of this, there will be a band who will cite us as a major influence, who finds a sound all their own.
Father. Each man faces death by himself.
The theme of the song One is particularly bleak. How did that one come about?
It's funny, the word bleak comes up a lot.
A dark vision, shall we call it, you know?
basically, it just goes back a few years ago to actually way back to when we were doing stuff for the Puppets album. We were just talking about what it would be like to be in a situation which the guy in the song is obviously in, where he basically can't see, hear, or speak, and doesn't have any limbs or anything, just basically shut off from everything that goes on around him. And then we found out that there was a book written about a guy in a similar situation, just set up against the background of World War I, which was obviously this book called Johnny Got His Gun. And that's basically when we took the idea and set it against that background. But just, I think some of those ideas come from, I think a lot of them comes from sort of fear of being trapped in certain situations that you really have no control over.
Oh, please, God, wake me. Just like a piece of meat that keeps on living.
In making the video for the song, how did you integrate the film footage into the performance?
We became aware sometime back in September of last year that there was actually a movie done about the book, and then it was actually directed by old Dalton Trumbo himself, and who wrote the book, obviously. And we got a copy of the movie, which wasn't actually that easy to track down, and looked through it and so forth. And I think somewhere along the lines of watching the movie and so forth, somewhere a few ideas were just born that maybe here was actually sort of the foundation of something that could possibly turn into some sort of very weird and very different, you know, promotional video than what other bands had done. And we got the rights to the movie, and we basically just started talking about, you know, okay, we'll show the band, you know, playing very, very subtly, and, you know, just the way we do when we rehearse, you know, play to each other, not anything big and enormous with big lights and anything like that, just very subtle and very sort of just easy, sort of straightforward stuff. And just basically to try and tell the story of what goes on in this book and this movie without also, which was very difficult to, without just making the song sort of like a musical background for the story. So it was, trying to balance it out was kind of difficult. We knew somewhere along the lines there that we had an idea that was, you know, definitely very original and also quite different from what other people had been doing. And we threw ourselves out into it, knowing all the time the agreement we had with Elektra Records, which was that if this did not work, see ya, straight in the garbage can at their expense. And
nice agreement.
Yeah, it was a good agreement.
It isn't like a lot of these commercial videos where it's just image after image after image after image, and you can just like stare at it, you know, at a daze. This one demands a lot of attention when you look at it, and it's, like I said, it's pretty different, and so I'm really proud of it.